The quiet hum of the ISS Vanguard was abruptly shattered by the emergency alarms. Captain James Ryder snapped to attention as the ship's AI broadcasted a priority message across all decks. Unidentified fleet detected in geostationary orbit. Immediate action required. James rushed to the command bridge where his crew was already assembling. Among them was Lieutenant Marco Silva, his second-in-command and an expert in tactical operations. The large screen at the front of the bridge flickered to life, displaying dozens of massive vessels encircling Earth. "Captain, they've completely bypassed our radar," Marco reported, his eyes fixed on the screen. "It's like they appeared out of thin air." James studied the alien ships, their sleek metallic surfaces unlike anything he had seen. "Options, people. I need options," he demanded, his voice steady despite the rising tension. Communications Officer Lisa Cheng attempted to make contact. "No response to hails on any channel, sir. They're either ignoring us or can't understand us." Suddenly, the main screen switched to a live feed of an alien figure, its skin a deep blue, eyes narrow and piercing. The translation software struggled initially but finally sputtered out a message. "Humanity, submit to the Zeltronian Empire. Resistance will result in annihilation." The threat hung heavy in the air. James turned to his crew, his decision clear. "We don't bow to threats. Marco, ready the interceptors. Lisa, keep trying to communicate. Let's show them Earth isn't just going to roll over." "Yes, sir," they responded in unison, springing into action. As Marco coordinated with the fighter squadrons, James pulled up the strategic overview. Earth's defenses were modest compared to the alien technology displayed, but they were not insignificant. Lisa piped up. "I've got something, Captain. It seems like a faction within the Zeltronians isn't in favor of this invasion. There might be room to exploit some internal dissent." "Good work, Lisa. Keep on it. Any fracture in their front can be to our advantage," James acknowledged, his mind racing through possibilities. In the fighter bay, James met with squadron leader Thomas Reyes, a veteran pilot. "Tomas, your guys are going to be our first line of defense. I need you to buy us time to figure out their next move." Tomas nodded firmly, his face set in a grim line. "We won't let them through, Captain. We'll give them a welcome they weren't expecting." Back on the bridge, Marco updated James. "All squadrons are in position. We also have orbital defenses ready to provide cover fire." As the first wave of Zeltronian ships advanced, a tense silence fell over the ISS Vanguard's bridge. Then, as the interceptors met the alien ships in Earth's upper atmosphere, bursts of light marked the beginning of humanity's resistance. James watched the battle unfold, his crew working seamlessly around him. Each explosion was a testament to Earth's defiance, a message to the Zeltronians that humans were not to be underestimated. Hours into the conflict, the Zeltronians halted their advance, seemingly reevaluating their strategy. James seized the moment. "Keep pressing, everyone. This is our chance to push them back. Marco, coordinate with ground defenses. Lisa, any progress on communication?" Lisa nodded. "Yes, Captain. I've tapped into their comm network, broadcasting now." James's voice filled the frequency, strong and clear. "To the Zeltronian commanders, and to those who question this invasion. Earth stands united, ready to defend our home. Withdraw now, and avoid further conflict." As the standoff continued, James knew this was but the first encounter in what could be a prolonged struggle. Yet the unity and bravery shown by his crew gave him hope. Earth was ready to fight for its freedom. As dawn broke over the red dunes of Mars, the calm was shattered by the ominous echo of the Zeltronian fleet descending into orbit. Captain James Ryder observed from the command center of Mars Base Alpha, the strategic heart of humanity's extraterrestrial mining operations. "Looks like they've decided Mars is their next target," James noted, turning to his chief engineer, David Kim, who was busily analyzing the fleet's descent patterns. "David, what's our status?" "We've fortified the base's perimeter defenses, but honestly, James, these setups weren't designed for a full-scale assault," David replied, concern etching his features. James nodded solemnly. "Understood. Let's make sure we use the environment to our advantage. Start preparations for a dust storm diversion." David perked up. "A dust storm, sir? That could work. The Martian sandstorms could cripple their sensors." "Exactly. Initiate the storm generators as soon as their ground troops land. It'll give us the cover we need to strike," James strategized. As they prepared their defenses, James called in his tactical officer, Lieutenant Alex Chen, to map out the ambush. "Alex, once the storm hits, I want your team ready to move. We'll use the chaos to our advantage and hit their flanks." Alex nodded, his eyes sharp. "We'll be ready, Captain. We can set up the mobile artillery units along the eastern ridge. It'll give us a clear shot. Good. Coordinate with Tomas and his squadron. We'll need air support once we engage on the ground, James instructed, his mind racing through the myriad of scenarios that could unfold. The Zeltronian fleet made landfall just as Mars's artificially triggered sandstorms swept across the plains, reducing visibility to near zero and throwing the invaders into disarray. James watched on thermal scanners as shadows moved through the thick haze. Now, he commanded over the comm system. Artillery roared to life, and Mars base's defenders surged forward, taking the Zeltronians by surprise. In the midst of the storm, James led a ground team, moving swiftly through the whipping sands. They reached a Zeltronian outpost, disoriented by the Martian conditions. With precision and coordination, James and his team neutralized the threat, capturing key alien technology. Back at the command center, David monitored the ongoing battle, providing real-time updates. James, we've got them on the back foot. The storm's doing its job. James responded, his voice crackling through the comm. Keep pushing, everyone. Every inch we hold could mean the difference between victory and defeat here. As the storm began to settle, the scale of the devastation became apparent. The Martian defenders had managed to cripple a significant portion of the Zeltronian ground forces. James convened with his officers to assess the situation. Alex reported, "We've taken out at least 3 of their armored carriers and numerous troops. Their advance has stalled. Let's keep up the momentum. Prepare for a counteroffensive. We've shown them that Mars is not theirs for the taking," James declared, a steely resolve in his tone. As the dust cleared, the Zeltronian ships hovered ominously, but their ground forces were in disarray. James's strategy had paid off, buying crucial time for Earth to bolster its defenses and prepare for the next phase of the conflict. Mars had held for now, but the war was far from over. After the decisive victory at Mars, Captain James Ryder focused on leveraging humanity's growing momentum. The Zeltronians, recovering from their unexpected defeat, restructured their approach. But James was already 2 steps ahead, planning his next move on the strategic chessboard of interstellar warfare. Back on Earth, James met with his newly assembled special operations team, including Sergeant Leo Zhang, an expert in unconventional warfare. "Gentlemen, the Zeltronians think in terms of direct conflict and sheer power, but we're going to introduce them to chaos and unpredictability. We're hitting them where they least expect it," James explained in the secure operations room. Leo, ever the tactician, laid out a series of potential targets on the holographic display. "We've identified weak links in their supply chain. Hitting these points will cripple their operational capabilities and slow their advancements across our system." James pointed to a lunar orbit refueling station. "That's our first target. We disrupt their fuel supplies. We disrupt their mobility. Leo, I want your team ready to move out within the hour." "Roger that, Captain. We'll prepare for a rapid assault. Stealth shuttles and EMP devices in tow," Leo confirmed, his team nodding in agreement, already mentally preparing for the mission ahead. The operation was set for the dead of the lunar night. The Special Ops team, clad in dark, non-reflective spacesuits, approached the Zeltronian refueling station. Using a combination of manual hacking and electronic warfare tools, they disabled the station's sensors and communications before planting charges. Leo led the charge, whispering into his comm. "Charges set, exfiltrating in 2 minutes. Prepare for fireworks." James, monitoring from ISS Vanguard, responded, "Copy that, Leo. Get your team clear. We'll handle it from here." As Leo's team made their stealthy retreat, the charges detonated, setting off a chain reaction that engulfed the station in flames visible even from the surface of the moon. The explosion was not just a physical blow, but a psychological one, sending a clear message. Earth was not just defending, it was attacking. Following the success of the lunar operation, James turned his attention to a series of similar strikes, utilizing the mobility and flexibility of his special ops teams. They hit supply convoys, isolated outposts, and communication arrays, each strike sowing further confusion and disarray among the Zeltronian ranks. In the midst of this new guerrilla campaign, James convened a meeting with his senior staff aboard the ISS Vanguard. "We've managed to put the Zeltronians on the defensive, but we can't let up. We need to keep the pressure on, keep them guessing, and exploit every single mistake they make," he asserted, his gaze sweeping across the room. Marco, now seasoned in the art of asymmetric warfare, chimed in. "Intelligence suggests there's growing discontent among the Zeltronian troops. Our attacks are not just depleting their resources, but also their morale." "Good. Let's keep digging at that crack. Our next phase involves cyber warfare. If we can infiltrate their command networks, we can cause even more chaos, James planned, already thinking several moves ahead. As the chapter closed, Earth's forces, under James's leadership, continued their relentless pace, shifting from defensive standoffs to proactive strikes. Each operation further demonstrated humanity's adaptability and willingness to engage in a war many had feared unwinnable. The Zeltronians, shocked by the tenacity and cunning of Earth's defenders, found themselves regrouping, unable to gain the quick victories they had anticipated. The Zeltronians, growing increasingly desperate to gain a strategic edge, turned their attention to Jupiter. They sought to harness the stormy planet's intense atmospheric energies, planning to convert them into a formidable weapon. Captain James Ryder, intercepting Zeltronian communications, learned of their intentions and prepared a bold countermeasure. Jupiter's atmosphere is a beast unto itself. If they think they can tame it for their purposes, they're in for a surprise, James mused aloud in the strategy meeting aboard the ISS Vanguard. He outlined a daring plan to sabotage the Zeltronian operations deep within the gas giant's turbulent atmosphere. Lieutenant Commander Sarah Ellis, an expert in atmospheric science, joined the discussion, providing vital insights. The pressure and storms within Jupiter are catastrophic. We can use this to our advantage. A few well-placed explosives could turn their facility into an inferno. James nodded, approving the strategy. Sarah, you'll lead the engineering team. We'll need specialized ships to withstand the conditions. This is high risk, but it's a risk we need to take. The mission was set. James personally led a squadron of heavily modified ships, designed to endure Jupiter's extreme conditions. The team descended into the planet's atmosphere, their vessels groaning under the immense pressure and buffeted by violent storms. As they approached the Zeltronian facility, a massive structure anchored to a floating platform in the upper atmosphere, the tension was palpable. Visibility was near zero, the only illumination coming from the occasional flashes of lightning that revealed the looming shape of their target. All right, team, we're in position. Deploy the charges and prepare for immediate extraction, James ordered through the crackling radio, the static a testament to Jupiter's harsh environment. Sarah and her team executed their part flawlessly, maneuvering through the tempest to plant explosives at critical junctures of the facility. The operation was a race against time as the Zeltronian security measures began to detect their presence. Charges set. We have to move now. Sarah's voice came through the comm, urgent and clear. As they retreated, the explosives detonated, setting off a series of explosions that cascaded through the facility. The resulting fireball was a spectacular sight, magnified by Jupiter's swirling gases. The Zeltronian project was obliterated in moments, the shock waves sending ripples through the gas giant's dense atmosphere. James and his team navigated their ships out of the chaos, narrowly escaping the pull of Jupiter's gravity as debris from the facility was swallowed by the planet's deep, dark abyss. Back aboard the ISS Vanguard, the crew celebrated their successful mission. James took a moment to address his team. Today, we not only disrupted the Zeltronians' plans, but also sent a clear message. Earth will fight anywhere, anytime. We'll meet our enemies, no matter where they hide. The news of the mission's success spread quickly through Earth's networks, boosting morale and showcasing humanity's ingenuity and courage. The Zeltronians, faced with yet another setback, began to realize that conquering Earth would require much more than brute force. They had underestimated the tenacity and resourcefulness of humanity, especially when led by someone as daring and strategic as Captain James Ryder. As Earth's defenders celebrated their victory, James knew that the war was far from over. The Zeltronians would undoubtedly regroup and come back with new strategies. But so would Earth. Under his leadership, humanity would be ready to counter whatever came next, defending their home with unyielding spirit and unparalleled ingenuity. In the wake of their victory at Jupiter, humanity's strategic position was stronger than ever. Captain James Ryder capitalized on this momentum to initiate a major counteroffensive aimed at reclaiming lost territories from the Zeltronians. The operation would culminate in a significant battle near Saturn, where Earth's forces planned to confront the main Zeltronian armada. On board the ISS Vanguard, James convened his top advisors and squadron leaders for a detailed briefing. The Zeltronians are reeling from our recent strikes, but they're gathering near Saturn for a major push. This is where we meet them head-on, James declared, his voice resolute. Commander Helen Park, the fleet's chief tactician, laid out the battle plans on the holographic display. Our objective is to break their line and isolate their flagship. Once we do that, their command structure will crumble, she explained, pointing out the positions and expected maneuvers of the enemy fleet. James nodded, then turned to address his pilots and crew, gathered in the hangar bay. This battle could turn the tide of the war. Each of you has trained for this moment. Your skill, your courage, will make the difference. The air was thick with anticipation as the fleet approached Saturn. The ringed planet loomed large, its icy rings casting eerie shadows across the ships. James's flagship led the charge, flanked by smaller fighters and heavily armed destroyers. As the battle commenced, the vastness of space was lit by the blazing exchange of laser fire and the devastating trajectories of torpedoes. Earth's forces, under James's direct command, executed a series of complex maneuvers designed to outflank the Zeltronian ships. Lieutenant Colonel Tomas Reyes, now leading a fighter squadron, darted through the chaos, targeting key Zeltronian vessels. "Echo Team, follow my lead. Hit their starboard flanks," he commanded over the comm, his fighter swooping dangerously close to a Zeltronian destroyer. Meanwhile, on the main bridge of the ISS Vanguard, James watched as their tactics began to bear fruit. "Helen, update on their flagship?" Commander Park responded, focusing intently on her screens. "Their shields are down to 30%. A few more concentrated hits should do it." "Tomas, do you copy? It's time to make your run," James directed, his gaze fixed on the tactical display. "Copy that, Captain. We're on it," Tomas replied, his squadron peeling off for a decisive strike. With precision and bravery, Tomas's squadron delivered a crippling blow to the Zeltronian flagship, breaching its hull and disrupting its command operations. The impact was immediate. The Zeltronian fleet, now leaderless, descended into disarray. Seizing the moment, James ordered a full-scale assault. "All units, push forward. This is our chance to end this here." As the battle raged, the Zeltronians, unable to regroup, began to retreat. Earth's forces pursued, relentless, their unified actions speaking to their improved coordination and combat tactics developed under James's leadership. The victory was resounding. As the remnants of the Zeltronian armada fled through Saturn's rings, humanity celebrated a major victory, one that significantly shifted the balance of power in the solar system. James, though weary, allowed himself a moment of pride as he addressed his crew. "Today, you all stood as defenders of our home, our way of life. Because of your bravery, the enemy is in retreat, but our fight continues. We must stay vigilant, prepared to defend the peace we are fighting to establish." With the fleet rallying around their victorious captain, Earth's resolve was stronger than ever. As they prepared for the challenges ahead, they did so with renewed hope and determination, knowing they had the leadership and the spirit to overcome whatever challenges the Zeltronians might bring next. Following the monumental victory near Saturn, Captain James Ryder understood that maintaining the initiative was crucial. To capitalize on their current advantage, he decided to infiltrate the Zeltronian homeworld to gather critical intelligence. This mission would require precision, stealth, and the courage to venture deep into enemy territory. James convened with his covert operations team aboard the ISS Vanguard, outlining the high-risk operation. "We've managed to secure Zeltronian armor and identification codes from previous encounters. Using these, we'll pose as one of their supply crews. Our goal is to access their central command, extract vital data on their military capabilities and upcoming strategies." Lieutenant Nora Hayes, an expert in espionage and disguise, was tasked with the preparations. "We've studied their communication protocols extensively. I'll mimic their signals, and with the stolen IDs, we should be able to land without raising alarms." James selected a small, elite team for the mission, including Sergeant Leo Zhang, who had proven his mettle in numerous engagements. They underwent intensive training, familiarizing themselves with Zeltronian customs and speech patterns to avoid detection. The mission commenced under the cover of darkness as the team boarded a captured Zeltronian shuttle. As they approached the alien planet, the tension was palpable. Nora, acting as the pilot and communications officer, successfully navigated them through the orbital defenses. Upon landing, James led his team through the bustling spaceport, their appearances completely transformed by holographic disguises. They moved with purpose but without haste, blending into the crowds of Zeltronian soldiers and workers. Reaching the central command was the most challenging part of the operation. It was located in a heavily guarded compound in the capital city. Using a combination of stealth and the occasional diversion, created by Leo's precise sabotage of surveillance systems, they managed to enter the compound. Inside, James and Nora accessed the mainframe while Leo and the rest of the team stood guard. The data they discovered was more revealing than they had hoped. "Look at this," James murmured. scrolling through deployment schedules and encrypted communications that indicated a split in the Zeltronian leadership. Nora quickly downloaded the data onto a secure drive. "We've got what we need. Time to get out before they notice the breach," she whispered. The escape was tense, with every step away from the command center increasing their risk of detection. Just as they neared the shuttle, alarms blared throughout the compound. "They know we're here," Leo said, his voice calm despite the rising chaos. With Zeltronian forces converging on their position, the team broke into a desperate run. They fought off pursuing soldiers with non-lethal force, keen not to harm potential allies among the Zeltronians who opposed the war. They reached the shuttle, lifting off amid a storm of enemy fire. Nora expertly maneuvered them out of orbit, the stolen data a significant prize that promised to shift the strategic balance even further in Earth's favor. Back aboard the ISS Vanguard, James reviewed the intelligence with his senior officers. The information would allow them to preempt Zeltronian attacks and possibly sow further discord among their ranks. This data could very well decide the war, James concluded, aware that the days ahead would be crucial in leveraging their newfound advantage. As the team celebrated their narrow escape and the success of their daring mission, James felt a surge of pride. They had not only survived a journey into the heart of enemy territory, but had also brought back hope and a real chance at securing peace for humanity. With critical intelligence in hand revealing fractures within the Zeltronian leadership, Captain James Ryder saw an opportunity to end the war. The plan was to launch a decisive strike directly at the heart of the Zeltronian Empire, targeting their core systems and command structure. James convened a war council aboard the ISS Vanguard, laying out the strategy. "We have one shot at this," he began, his voice firm. "Our intel points to significant unrest among the Zeltronians. If we strike now, while they're divided, we can end this once and for all." Commander Helen Park detailed the tactical approach. "We'll deploy multiple strike teams across their key facilities, focusing on their command and control center. This coordinated attack will disrupt their ability to regroup and respond effectively." James appointed Lieutenant Colonel Tomas Reyes to lead one of the strike teams. "Tomas, you'll take point on infiltrating their defense network. Once inside, your team will neutralize their communications. We need total silence before the main assault begins." Tomas nodded, understanding the weight of his task. "Understood, Captain. We won't let you down." As the fleet neared the Zeltronian core, stealth and speed were crucial. The teams deployed from the ISS Vanguard in small, maneuverable crafts, slipping past the enemy's outer defenses undetected. Upon entering the Zeltronian atmosphere, Tomas's team executed a high-velocity drop, landing covertly near the defense network hub. Meanwhile, James led the main assault team towards the Central Command Center, a towering fortress that controlled the Zeltronian military operations. As Thomas's team sabotaged the communications arrays, James's team encountered fierce resistance. Blaster fire lit up the dimly lit corridors of the fortress, and every step forward was contested by desperate Zeltronian defenders. "Push forward," James yelled over the din of combat. "We need to reach the command room." With communications down, the Zeltronians were slow to coordinate a counterattack, giving James and his team the precious minutes they needed. After intense fighting, they breached the command center, confronting the Zeltronian high command. James initiated negotiations, his presence commanding the room. "This ends now," he declared. "Lay down your arms and spare your people further suffering. We can find a path to coexistence, but not under the shadow of war." The Zeltronian leaders, taken aback by the boldness of the assault and crippled by their internal strife, realized their position was untenable. After tense deliberations, they agreed to a ceasefire, willing to enter peace talks to end the conflict. The victory was hard-won. As the news of the successful mission spread, celebrations erupted across human-controlled territories. James, though relieved, remained focused on the peace negotiations ahead. "We've achieved a great victory, but the true challenge lies in building peace," he told his team. As they returned to the ISS Vanguard, the team was met with cheers and accolades. But for James, the sight of the Zeltronian planet below, now calm but scarred by war, was a sobering reminder of the cost of victory and the enduring need for vigilance and diplomacy. With the Zeltronian core neutralized and their leadership capitulating, the solar system began to breathe a tentative sigh of relief. Under James's leadership, humanity had not only defended its home, but had also paved the way for a future that, just months ago, seemed choked by the smoke of endless war. The formal ceasefire agreement between Earth and the Zeltronian Empire marked the beginning of a new era. The peace treaty was signed aboard the ISS Vanguard, floating in neutral space, with Captain James Ryder and the Zeltronian leaders presiding over the historic moment. The document outlined terms for disarmament, territorial sovereignty, and the establishment of a joint council to handle future disputes. As the ink dried on the treaty, James stood before his crew, addressing them with a mix of pride and solemnity. Today, we've not only secured peace, but also a chance for a future where our children can look to the stars, not with fear, but with wonder. Remember, the peace we've achieved isn't merely the absence of war. It is a promise we must keep with constant vigilance and mutual respect. Back on Earth, James's return was met with global celebrations. Cities around the world lit up with fireworks, and streets were filled with parades. James, hailed as a hero, was invited to speak at the United Nations, where he shared his vision for humanity's role in a broader interstellar community. "We must view this victory not as an end, but as a beginning," James told the assembly. "The universe is vast, filled with countless mysteries and potential allies. We must be ready to embrace both, learning from our past conflicts and looking forward to building lasting peace." However, the transition to peace was not without its challenges. Rebuilding efforts on war-torn colonies needed significant resources and time. Debates and discussions frequently erupted over the allocation of these resources and the direction of new joint initiatives with the Zeltronians. Meanwhile, the Zeltronian population faced a period of adjustment. The change in leadership and the new cooperative policies with Earth stirred unrest among some factions. James worked closely with Zeltronian representatives to address these issues, advocating for programs that promoted cultural exchange and mutual understanding. In one such initiative, a mixed group of human and Zeltronian students embarked on a project to study and preserve the unique ecosystems of Jupiter's moons, previously a battleground in the conflict. These efforts were broadcasted across both worlds, symbolizing the potential for cooperation and the shared benefits of peace. Amid these developments, James took a quieter role, stepping back from the front line to focus on diplomatic and advisory duties. His experience and insight proved invaluable in guiding the new era of human-Zeltronian relations, ensuring that the hard-earned peace was nurtured and sustained. Years later, at a commemorative event marking the anniversary of the treaty, James looked out over a sea of diverse faces, humans and Zeltronians together, celebrating their shared achievements. He reflected on the journey, from the harrowing days of war to the thriving partnerships of today. "The power we discovered within ourselves during the war was formidable," James mused in his address, "but the strength we find in peace, in our unity, is infinitely greater. Let us continue to build on this foundation, exploring the stars not as conquerors, but as explorers and keepers of peace." As the celebrations continued into the night, James felt a deep sense of fulfillment. The war had tested humanity in ways he could never have imagined, but it had also revealed a capacity for resilience, adaptability, and profound cooperation. The future was uncertain, but it was bright with promise, a testament to the enduring spirit of those willing to fight for peace.